Welcome to the show, everybody. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie.ag. What was the better news for you yesterday? Was it Jordan Romano being put on the IL? Was that the better news? Or Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce getting engaged? Because for me, as I've said all throughout the relationship there with the Kelce guy and the singer lady, that I love, and I am in support of everything. And I God bless him. How about that? I'm going to assume it was the Jordan Romano news, though, for most of the Philadelphia area. And how about this? The Jordan Romano gets not DFA'd. Well, way ahead of myself there. Gets put on the IL there with finger inflammation. I guess that's been building for a while, like all season. And the Phillies still lose. And not only do they lose to the Mets, they get the gut punch of gut punches in that their big acquisition at the deadline, Ryan Helsley, he gives up the lead there by giving up the home run to Harrison Bader. And then the Phillies' big acquisition, who the Mets were after, Joan Duran, he ends up blowing it in the ninth inning. Now, not a blown save, just a loss. So he doesn't get the blown save there. But that was awful. And this was on the heels of Cutdown Day. And I was kind of hoping as the day began that somehow Howie Roseman would reach across, would go down Patterson Avenue, across Broad Street, and, hey, help the Phillies DFA or cut Jordan Romano. Turns out it's the next best thing where he just gets shut down for a undisclosed period of time. No huge surprises. I know that's been a common theme of people's opinion when it comes to Cutdown Day, when it comes to the NFL's Cutdown Day and all that. Your cornerback room is still not great. You have two great corners, and Howie highlighted that yesterday during his press conference. And I've said that throughout the hey, look, if you're talking about who's going to be a third corner, it's good to have these problems down at the bottom of the barrel somewhere and not surface level. But you're going to need a third corner. I know that Quinyon Mitchell, and this is a saving grace, Quinyon Mitchell is going to be following the number one target. Cooper DeJean will most likely have the number two target in most instances here, right? But then you're going to have Cooper DeJean playing safety, nickel, and corner in base cover. That seems just like a lot. It still seems like a lot. And I voiced this concern yesterday. So the only one that really jumped out to me here is like Eli Ricks getting let go. We knew going into yesterday. We knew that was the thing. But Perry Nickerson, who I thought earned himself a job throughout camp and throughout the preseason, he gets let go. I just found that interesting. Not the one card of the house of cards that, in January, we're going to look back on an early playoff action and be like, shouldn't have cut Perry Nickerson. What the heck, guys? I don't think it's going to be like that, but just curious. I went, that's interesting. And then the other thing is a guy I also liked, Andre Sam, got released, a safety. And if you take a gander at the safety position right now with your Eagles, that's not a warm and fuzzy feeling. I don't feel great about Drew Makuba, and I don't feel great about Sidney Brown. So let me just get this straight. Tristan McCullum hasn't been good enough to start. So let's just get that out of the way. All right, so we're there. And then let's also get into Sidney Brown has more NFL experience but can't stay healthy. And the guy that's most likely going to be your starting safety week one has no NFL experience and also can't stay healthy. This is where we're at, right? How is Justin Simmons not a Philadelphia Eagle already? What are we doing here? We're just gonna look at this. This is the way it's gonna be. There is one thing that Howie Roseman said yesterday that I am finding to be the warm hug I think I need here when it comes to the Eagles. Now, look, I still think the Eagles are going to be a great football team. I know not every team is going to be perfect at every position. The Eagles are pretty damn near perfect at certainly every offensive position. Defensively, you're talking about a third corner, all right, and you're talking about safety. Everywhere else, I feel pretty damn good about. Edge rusher seems a little shallow as well on that depth chart, but I'm talking about two positions that are going to be out there for the vast majority of the season, which is in a nickel defense, right? We all know this. You're talking about one corner and you're talking about the safety position. There seems to be answers, seems to be solutions to these problems. Well, at least to one of them, and that's the safety spot. This can't be, it can't be serious. And for those wondering, let's not forget about two names. One, more recent, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, a very late addition to the roster before the season started, about a week out. And then Nickel Roby-Coleman, if you remember that corner, famous for the non-pass interference call in New Orleans. Howie Roseman is no stranger to making late additions. I would very much like, in the very near future, for the Eagles to get this late addition. Now, one of the things that I find really interesting about the whole Justin Simmons idea is that the Eagles could sign Justin Simmons on Wednesday, leading up to kickoff against the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday, and he knows the defense. He's played in it for years. He knows Vic Fangio. He knows what Vic Fangio wants. The man gets it. So as far as that goes, yeah, have at it. Sooner rather than later, just so I know they have him. And just so I know they wrapped it up already. But I'll let you hear one of the things that Howie Roseman got into yesterday, and that was the "we're not done" comment. And yeah, I would certainly hope that they're not done because it seems like they have some more work to do, especially on the defensive end of things. And when I've talked about the Eagles roster throughout the offseason and through training camp, and right now, we could say the same thing over and over again about it. And that is, if you are standing there and you are looking at the depth chart, whatever it might have been, even through preseason, you're looking at it and you're going, all right, offense looks pretty damn good. And this is even with Landon Dickerson. I'll just call it questionable for week one, doubtful for week one. I think he's playing. But even if you look at the offense now and you go, all right, solid. No questions. You know who's doing what. No question marks. And then you look over the defense and go, safety, corner, what are we doing here? Edge rusher, Ojulari has been disappointing. Uche has been the least stinky of the smelly kids, I guess. But he got a little banged up as well in training camp. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the same problems, looking at the same issues that we had going. The one thing you might say is, oh, well, you feel good about this now, is Drew Makuba had one good preseason game. Well, and it was really good. It, 2 turnovers, great. Pick 6, phenomenal. That was awesome. But one of the guys that the Eagles were looking at to really take over one of their questionable positions, Keely Ringo, just cowered in the competition. Was not ready for this. Adoree Jackson, who, this is what I found really interesting, and we got into this yesterday on Eagle Squad podcast, me, Jason Martinez, Harry Mays, and Louis DiBiase, over on Locked On Eagles. We got into this conversation about meeting a bar. All right, so Vic Fangio, throughout the preseason or throughout the training camp, all training camp, has talked about guys with some great reality here. One of them has been Drew Makuba. Like to see him go out there and play. He went out there and played. He played well. Now he's got to stay healthy. Yet to be seen. The other is Jacorian Bennett. Jacorian Bennett was talked about like he wasn't even going to be part of the party. He was talking about like, well, I guess he'll compete when he was acquired. I wonder what would have happened if Jacorian Bennett was acquired a week earlier. Would he be the guy that would be the odds-on favorite to be the starting outside corner? I think so. But he rose his game to at least be in the competition. Adoree Jackson had his whole resume rattled off by Vic Fangio and not in a positive light. Couldn't do it in Carolina, couldn't do it in New York. Maybe this is it. Everybody got me here. Well, he was just, I guess, better than Keely Ringo, which apparently wasn't that tall of an order. But Adoree Jackson rose to the occasion. Keely Ringo did not. Dwindled away, unfortunately. Now, he's still on the roster, which is actually somewhat surprising, but he's still on the roster. After that, the edge rusher position was talked about, was challenged, and I didn't see anybody stepping up to the point of, oh, yeah, they got this. This is a guy responding to Vic Fangio, challenging the edge rushers here in mostly Ojulari and Uche. Uche, I heard Uche throughout the preseason, which is just doesn't roll off the tongue right, but maybe that's what it is. Anyway, Nobody stepped up in that regard. Now, the benefit there is similar to the corner position in that you have two guys at the top of the list there, one in Nolan Smith, who just kept getting better last year, and another in Jalix Hunt, who showed good flashes. But now you're asking Jalix Hunt and Nolan Smith to replace what you went into the season with last year, which was Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham might not have been there as far as the flashy sack numbers go. And it's not like Josh Sweat had like a 20-sack season, but he still had a good season, 9.5 sacks last year? And then, as we all know, balled out in the Super Bowl. But when you're asking those two players in Hunt and Nolan Smith to take over for the production of the players that you had last year, they're no longer here. And now you're asking for potentially Ojulari and Uche taking over for the production you got from Nolan Smith last year, in terms of guys that are more down the depth chart. All right. So going into the season, you have concern about your third and fourth, at least I do, third and fourth edge rusher spots. Going into the season, you have question about your starting safety. Going into the season, you have a question about who your third starting corner is going to be. And Cooper DeJean can't be everywhere. So at times, you're gonna be worried about who's your nickel corner? You're gonna be worried about who's your outside corner if Cooper DeJean's on the outside, or excuse me, Cooper DeJean's staying at nickel. He can't play all three positions at once. I'm really curious to see how this comes out. And one of the things Nick Sirianni said yesterday was all about they're not going to, basically give the Dallas Cowboys any competitive edge on how this is going to work out going up to Thursday night's kickoff a week from tomorrow. Imagine that. But I'm very curious to see where Cooper DeJean's name pops up on that depth chart. I'm not even talking about like where he's going to pop up at number one, just how many different points he's going to be on that depth chart when you look at it. I've said before, I think he's a whatever guy. Like, hey, what do you need me to do? Yeah, whatever. I can do it. Yeah, sure. He certainly seems to have that mindset, certainly seems to have that athleticism. But I also know that he is a dominant slot corner. And I'd love to see him stay at that position. Hey, I do believe in challenging young players. Quenyon Mitchell, for instance. Hey, great year last year. You were phenomenal. Now go follow the number one guy. Go handle it. Cooper DeJean, great job last year. Now you're going to be playing two other positions. Okay. I mentioned, a saving grace of all of it is that you're talking about a third corner. Now, I always say this. In 2017, we were talking about the backup quarterback hadn't played in the preseason. I think Nick Foles was banged up. And did you trust your long snapper? Those are the concerns. And I remember thinking at the end of like the cut down day and all that, I remember thinking to myself, if this is what I'm concerned about, they have a really good team. They have a really, really good team. If this is what I'm worried about, they got a really good team. What am I even worried about? But this is a little different in that you're talking about really two starting positions. And if you're not considering two starting positions with the outside corner spot because it's a third man in, I mean, they're a nickel all the time, essentially. So to me, that's a starting position. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. It looks like Cooper DeJean is going to be their Bugs Bunny. And it looks like Adoree Jackson is going to be what's considered in the nickel defense to be the number 2 corner. And then another guy there at slot, who is obviously Cooper DeJean. And then how often they mix him in at safety. Is that going to be more in the nickel coverage? Is that going to be more in the base? These are the questions we have that we won't get answers to, unfortunately, until the season actually kicks off. Other than that, nothing really surprised me. I know there was some conversation about A.J. Dillon not making the roster. I just thought that was bananas. Kevin Patullo, for guys that you don't normally get a lot out of for offensive coordinator, he kind of let it be known that he's going to be using these running backs, which for one of the concerns I had going into this year, away from depth or acquisitions or anything like that by Howie Roseman, one of the questions I had was, okay, what are you going to do about Saquon Barkley as far as 482 carries, or excuse me, 482 touches in all of last year? What are you going to do about that? Well, they got A.J. Dillon, who's obviously recovered from the neck injury. They still have Will Shipley. Kevin Patullo has gone above and beyond the normal just praising of players that are your players. He's actually talked about how he wants to use them, and then went ahead and used them that way in a preseason game, which I was like, oh, wow, he told us about this. This is stunning. Usually they just say whatever, get you thinking one thing, and then they end up doing the old rope-a-dope. But no, Kevin Patullo, a man of his word, apparently. But A.J. Dillon looked good, I thought, in the preseason. We know he's had success in his NFL career. He's got to stay healthy. I think he's going to be a great addition to the backfield. If there's another tip play like he had in preseason game number 2, just knock that down on the ground, man. Don't need to catch that. Thank you. And then Will Shipley, I think, will take a step forward this year. And however big that step is going to be dependent, I think, on the previous 2 running backs mentioned in Saquon Barkley and A.J. Dillon. But I feel good about that, and I feel like you have been told by Kevin Patullo how he's going to use these guys, and then again, he went ahead and used them in that way. So I feel like the backfield is going to be great with Dillon, and I never thought he wasn't going to make the team. There was talk about Brett Toth possibly not making the team. That also seemed bananas to me. I told you, the 2 names that really jumped out to me that didn't make the squad were Perry Nickerson, but both in the secondary, Perry Nickerson and Andre Sam. I thought both those guys played well enough in the preseason to warrant a spot on the roster, given the issues you have with those spots on the roster on the depth chart. So a little surprising there. Also, Anaya Smith, your returner. I saw Britton Covey actually got let go as well. Maybe he makes a return to Philadelphia. But one thing is for damn sure, I better not see Cooper DeJean worried about a 4th position of returning kicks, returning punts, whatever it might be. Please, no. No, thank you. All right, we'll get more to that. We'll also hear from Howie Roseman coming up in a minute. It's my elbow squeaking on the table for the record. Your Philadelphia Phillies. Our Philadelphia Phillies. At no point did I feel like they were going to win this game. And I didn't feel like they were going to win going into it. And I sure as hell didn't feel like they were going to win when I saw Jesus Luzardo lose his mind in the second batter of the game when Juan Soto stepped out of the box, called a late timeout, and then Jesus Luzardo lost his you-know-what on Willie Traynor, the home plate umpire. That was terrible. That was really bad. I did not like that. And then, to his credit, he settled in. Jesus Luzardo settled in rather well. After that inning, he had a 27-pitch first inning, 10-pitch second, 10-pitch third, 23 in the fourth. Got himself out of a little bit of a jam there. And then the wheels fell off in the 5th inning, unfortunately. 5th inning, he was at 69 pitches. He hit Torrens to start the inning. He had him 0-2, hit him in the foot with a sweeper. That's never good. Lindor got the bloop single to center. Now you got 2 on, nobody out. Phillies were up 2-0 at this point. And even when they went up 2-0 on Bryce Harper's 2-run single of Gregory Soto on a first pitch, I think it was first pitch sinker up and in, I went, why is he swinging at that pitch? I know he produced 2 runs, so I'm happy with the result, but Gregory Soto is a guy that's going to give you a game. Let him give it to you. In other words, just have a slow bleed. But Harper was made up his mind going up to the plate, and he got a bad pitch to hit and took it off the hands and still made something out of it. So there you go. But even at that point, I went, 2 runs? That's not enough. So you have 2 on. You got nobody out. He gives up the RBI single to Soto to center field. Bader throws home and sails it. I don't know what the hell, why. Everybody moves up a spot. Now you got second and third with nobody out. Marte walks. There was an awful, all night long, this umpiring crew. Scott Berry, who I think I'll just always maintain a bias against, but he can prove me wrong by doing a good job. because of the Ryan Howard incident 15 years ago, which is crazy. It was that long ago. But Willie Traynor was terrible behind home plate for both teams. Very inconsistent. And this was a perfect example of it. In the 5th inning, when he's facing Sterling Marte, he gets a 2-2 fastball in off the plate. It was a ball. But the thing is, it had been a strike for the previous 4 innings. So you think you know what the home plate umpire strike zone is, and nope, pulls the old switcheroo. That ain't a strike anymore in the 5th inning. So he should have sat down Marte for the first out of the inning there on a 2-2 fastball in. Called a ball, ends up being a full count, ends up being a walk. Now you got the bases loaded, you got nobody out. They take Luzardo out, they bring in Orion Kirkring. I told you guys I didn't know the numbers. Throughout the week, I told you, actually for the last 2 weeks, I told you guys I didn't know the numbers for Orion Kirkring. I don't know how many inherited runners he allowed to score. Apparently, going into last night, I think it was 11. And then out of last night, he let 3 of those runs score. So now he's up to 14, I believe it is. It's around there. Out of 31 opportunities. So you mean to tell me about half the time he's letting these people score? That's not good. Like, that screams to me, and I heard Ricky Bo say this, but I've said this as well. It just screams of, well, it's not my guys. I don't care. It's not my ERA that's getting charged. That's stealing your credit card. In this case, Jesus Luzardo, stealing your credit card. And then that was just a 5-2 game after that 5th inning. And by the way, Jesus Luzardo gets taken out of the game. So I mentioned in the first inning, he was yelling at Willie Traynor, the home plate umpire, about calling the late timeout for Juan Soto. And I was like, okay, well, that's not good to be that rattled, 1 out into a game. But again, he settled in. 5th inning, though, you could tell the frustration was there. JT Realmuto was saying things to Willie Traynor throughout the game. Jesus Luzardo gets taken out of the game, and credit to NBC Sports Philly for showing this after the commercial break, after Orion Kirkring came in. They show Jesus Luzardo walking off the mound. It's on my Twitter feed if you guys haven't seen it yet. And you could clearly see Jesus Luzardo looking back at Willie Traynor, the home plate umpire, and going, he said, hey, wake the bleep up. Wake the bleep up. This isn't the minors. And I was like, oh, he's got a point. So Orion Kirkring comes in a bases loaded, no out situation, and everybody scores. It goes from a 2-1 ball game to a 5-2 ball game in the blink of an eye. There's Alonso gets a 2-run double. Vientos got the RBI single. Nimmo gets a sac fly RBI. When it was all said and done, 5 runs, 4 hits, 1 error. That was on Bader's throw. And then 1 hit batsman. And that was by Jesus Luzardo to start the inning when he had him 0-2. That's where it felt like things were going to spiral. So then, the Phillies, and this is where it becomes the most perfect win imaginable for the New York Mets. This is where it becomes the most beautiful, confidence-building win for the New York Mets. So they're up 5-2 now. They came back from being down 2-0. The Phillies were up 3-0 in game 1. Now they're up 2-0. Mets come storming back. 5-2 game in favor of the Mets now. They get an RBI single from Edmundo Sosa in the top of the 6th inning when Francisco Lindor moving to his right, couldn't pick it, and then throw to first. So a run scored, infield RBI single for Edmundo Sosa. 5-3 game. Okay. 5th inning, Ryan Helsley pitching their big acquisition. Harrison Bader is up against him after Nick Castellanos worked an 8-pitch walk. What? Yes. Bader goes up there. I think he's down in the count 1-2, fights off a couple of pitches, got 2 hanging sliders that he swung through, and then finally worked the count full, 3-2 fastball. And first, the camera angle on this one, I don't know what was going on. I was expecting, it was like if you're in the movie Major League when he's like, it's too high. You're an idiot. That kind of thing. Bader hits this moonshot, rainmaker of a home run into the left field stands. It was gone by a mile. I mean, he just tattooed this baseball, but it was up in the air, hung up there forever. I was expecting is this just a drop down? And T-Mac, who's on the call, is also questioning whether or not it's going to be gone, but it was well gone. 2-run home run. Phillies tied up at 5. At this moment, I still didn't feel like the Phillies were going to win this game. And, guess what? They didn't win. Alvarado. Matt Strahm, by the way, came in, did a great job. 1-2-3, struck out the side in the 7th inning. Jose Alvarado came in. He allowed a 2-out single to Lindor, but that was nothing doing. Got Soto to strike out, looking at a 100-mile-per-hour sinker at the knees. Great job by Jose Alvarado. Still, nothing. Did not feel like the Phillies were going to win this game. Diaz went through Schwarber, struck out Harper, got Real Muto to ground out to first, and then you went into the bottom of the 9th inning, and I was convinced that the Phillies were not going to win this game. Joan Duran came in, 4 batters faced, 4 hits. Mets walk it off. Duran takes the loss. It was Beatty's at bat that I was watching, and I went, uh-oh. Because he was throwing his splitter at about 97, 98 miles per hour, and I'm just thinking, it ain't working, man. You're just slow. You're just speeding up their bats. I know it's weird to say that about a 97-mile-per-hour pitch, but they were hitting it. So he just goes with fastballs against Beatty. And you could see Beatty missed like by a day on his first swing. Little bit closer on his second swing. And then I think everyone and their mother and their mother's best friend knew that Beatty was just going to get another 101, 102 mile per hour fastball. And that's exactly what he got. And he caught up to it just enough to get a little tip of the bat into left field, bouncing in front of Brandon Marsh for a bases loaded situation. And then they walked it off after that. Nimmo walked it off after that. That's the way that one ended. Mets celebrate. Phillies walk off the field. Rob Thompson, after the game, convinced everyone is going to be fine. This is a good baseball team. Blah, 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 blah. This team fights. It's got nothing to do with the fact that we're terrible at Citi Field, which, by the way, the numbers on that, holy pots and pans. The numbers on the Phillies at Citi Field. This year, they are now 0-5. Last year, 3-3. 2023, 1-5. 2022, 2-7. In total, they are 6-22 at Citi Field since 2022. They have lost 9 straight games, including last year's postseason at Citi Field. You can't tell me that when you see Alec Boehm complaining about shiny lights, if you will, in center field that have been there since at least 2017. You can't tell me that when you see Christopher Sanchez kicking a trash can, and you never see that, you can't tell me that when you see Jesus Luzardo freak out on 2 different occasions at the home plate umpire, that the guys aren't gripping the ball too tight or they're not gripping the bat too tight. You can't tell me that. It is absolutely in the Phillies' heads right now that they can't win at Citi Field. Zero doubt in my mind. And the way this series has gone in particular, just again with the frustration, that lets you know that, no, this is bigger than other games. And it's not just the fact that it's the Mets and they're behind you in the division. It's the fact that you get into that stadium and you look around, you got nothing but ghosts. That's what it feels like. Ghosts right now for the Phillies. They won't admit it. They won't say it. John Kruk even said the same thing the other day. It's like, yeah, no one in the clubhouse is going to tell you that you don't have it. This stadium is haunting us or whatever. No one's going to say that, or that it's in your head. No one's going to say that. All you got to do is watch the game go and be like, oh, they're definitely, this is in their head. They need some kind of cosmic shift. And I'd love to say Taijuan Walker is going to provide that today or tonight at 7:10. But it's just, they can't do it. I have no confidence. Phillies could go up 10-0 in the 3rd inning. And I'd be like, they're going to blow this. I just wait for them to lose. Now, why was this the perfect win for the Mets? Confidence booster for the Mets? Well, because they were down and they came back. And then the Phillies came back and they tied it on their big acquisition in Ryan Helsley. And then the Mets got to, with great ease, by the way, Joan Duran, the Phillies' great acquisition at the deadline. Not a confidence booster for the Phils, to say the least. You know, if I'm Rob Thompson, I just go up to the Phillies after the game and I say,
take away the scoreboard.
There you go. There you go. I did like Harrison Bader's comments about guy's approach and whatever. I think that's what the context was. But he basically said, "Hey, nobody came here." Like, talking about analytics. Nobody got in this clubhouse by being good at math. I thought, oh, that's a good way. That's a good way to put it. Although in today's game, it seems to be all math, unfortunately. But there you go. Phillies got Taijuan Walker on the hill tonight. He'll go against I think it's McLean tonight for the New York Metropolitans. Phillies take the 6-5 loss. That's the way that goes. All right, before I get into the chat check, I promised that I wanted you guys to hear from Howie Roseman. Here is Howie yesterday talking about, after cutdowns, what the plan is going forward as far as whether or not this team is done.
We're not done here. We're not done. We'll see what happens in the next 24 hours. I think I said this the last time we spoke. We got a lot of picks here, and we're happy to use those picks in the draft. But I think for us, the early part of the season, September, we got to see what we have, and if we need something, I'll do whatever I can to help this football team and be aggressive. And Jeffrey gives me that opportunity to do that. And so, I don't think that we're done. I don't think this is necessarily, this is a work in progress.
Not giving me the keys quite yet.
Yeah, not yet. No, he's going to drive. But we're going to continue sitting together. But
they're so cute together. They're like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman. I hope you're not done, because you still need a safety. I just, if I could do one thing, wave the magic wand, I'd just make Justin Simmons the safety for the Philadelphia Eagles. Makuba can have a nice big fat year of learning and hopefully staying healthy. I just make that happen. Look, the nickel going for a third corner. Like, are you gonna get a Pro Bowler to be there? No, I can live with Ja'Cory Bennett and Adoree Jackson as your corners. I could live with that. Mac McWilliams getting the opportunity as well. I can live with that. Being that, again, you're talking about a third corner, most likely being on the third best target. I can live with it. You're not going to have all pros everywhere. Especially with another saving grace, that is Jalen Carter being in the middle of his defensive line. That's going to be speeding up the clock of quarterbacks. I can't go into this with two young safeties that are banged up. Like, that's not confidence. I don't care what level of talent you think Drew Makuba has or Sidney Brown has. No, there's a better option out there. I'm gonna go get that option. So when he says I'm not done and we're not done, yeah, I agree. It seems to be a problem with an easy fix. The third corner, should I care more about it? I don't think so. I mean, again, you can't be perfect everywhere, but I know you could be vastly better at one starting spot, because there's going to be moments there where Cooper DeJean ain't going to be playing safety. There's going to be moments where he's playing nickel. And the other thing is, when you look at Cooper DeJean, do you really want to see him just be a safety after knowing how great he played at the nickel corner spot? That's where I'm at right now. I know everyone likes to say, you just trust the coach. You just trust the coaches. I worry that we'll find a blind spot, because every coach has got one. They're convinced something works. I don't know if it's something they've seen on paper. I mean, hey, look, Vic Fangio with Zach Bond, that's a huge feather in his cap for why he should have your trust. Everyone, you find guys, you find coaches that just, no, this is going to work. I'm going to tell you. And it doesn't. And I don't want this Eagles team to find out the hard way, especially when you know that this particular player is so great at one other position. Let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code FARZI, get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. We'll go to the game, the concert, the comedy show. Game Time app has you covered. And how about this? You can download the app, you can create an account, and save $20 off your first purchase. And they also have the Game Time guarantee. You find tickets in the same section, same row elsewhere. Game Time app will refund you 110% of the difference or credit your account 110% of the difference on the Game Time app. How about PHL Sports Nation, Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsNation.com. If Cooper DeJean could play all three positions, including punt returner. You know what that would make him?
Like a predator with some ice skates running through the grass.
Let's get into the chat check and see how you guys are doing this fine morning. Rye, what's going on? Hello. Nothing better than Eagles podcast ending with hockey. That was yesterday? I think that was yesterday. There you go. Sean Kilrain, hello. $14 million were spent between Joe Ross and Jordan Romano this winter. Yes, thank you. Joe Ross got DFA'd. Jordan Romano is obviously shut down. Not great. Not great. All right, let's go Mets, you say? All right, fine. Parabolic Mike era, go Mets. Okay, I'll laugh at that. That's funny. Thank you. Sean Kilrain saw that the Phillies are 6-23 in their last 29 games at Citi Field. They are 0-5 and somehow have a 5-game lead over the Mets. Yeah, let me just stress this one more time for people on the 5-game lead stuff and the 7-game lead stuff and all that. I don't care. I don't care if the Phillies win the division. I don't care if the Phillies make it into the playoffs on a wild card. I just want the Phillies to be playing the best possible baseball in September. I want the Phillies to look like a team that can beat whoever might compete with them to win the National League, whether that's the Brewers, whether that's the Mets. I don't care if the Phillies win the division. I don't care if they're up 5 games on the Mets. I don't care if they're up 20 games on the Mets. If you're up 20 games on the Mets and you get swept by the Mets at Citi Field again, is that going to make you have the warm and fuzzies? Huh? No? Good. That's where I'm at. The number 1 seed even. Best team in baseball, whatever. No, be the hottest team. And not even in just September, but like even mid to late September, be the hottest team. That's going to make me feel better about your odds in the postseason. Yes, runners in scoring position, Sean. They were terrible. They've been terrible in this series. They're 6 for 29 against them. Oh, Jesus, Mary Joseph. Oh, the Mets are 16-29 or 16 for 29 with runners in scoring position. Well, Farzi almost made it 5 minutes before crushing on Simmons. Yeah, it's right there. What are we doing? Wait, Frankie, Mark Holmes. Look before you leap, Mark Holmes. What's up, bud? Farzi, only the Dodgers have worse luck with Phillies according to their metric. Great. April. Morning. April. A bunch of eyes there. An exclamation point. Ringo sucks. Ringo sucks. Yeah, I agree. I love as well, but can we be honest and say it's getting old seeing them all day, every day? I mean, good for you, but go away, please. Good for you, but go away, please. Go be happy over there. Well, the NFL is not going to not show Taylor Swift. Even like my daughter's, 6 now. Yeah, little Toots is 6 now, She's like, oh, is that Travis Kelce? Is that Taylor Swift's boyfriend's team? Like that's how she knows it. That's how she knows football is a thing. She knows the Eagles. She knows the Eagles fight song. But like when I did the event with Jason Kelce 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh, one of the former Eagle, he's won a Super Bowl, is like one of the favorite Eagles of all time, one of the best Eagles of all time. And she's like, oh, did you say Kelce? And I said, yes. I knew it was coming. Taylor Swift's boyfriend's brother. That's how my daughter knows him for now, unfortunately. I got to do a better job there as a parent. Jerry Von Skyrim, more concerned about edge as long as we have a constant pass rush, as long as we have marginal coverage, we'll be fine. Fair. Thomas, what's up, cousin? Skeptic form? What do I expect Jalix Hunt to do this year? I'm not as high and mighty on Jalix. I like Jalix Hunt, but I'm not expecting a 9.5 sack season. I'm not expecting double. I think he's a 7-6 sack season. Give me some constant pressure. I'm not expecting some breakout year. Chairman, do we have to talk about the Phillies? Phillies are cooked. Umpire was April. The umpire was absolute garbage last night. Jackson Gosman, hello. I felt like we should have kept Smith for the return abilities. I agree. Unless they got another plan out there. But I agree. As of right now, 1,000%. Sure, Luzardo did not know how to handle it, says April. He did not know how to handle it. It was rough. Yeah, I don't know about the long snapper. That's again, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on there. Jerry Von Skyver, hello again. Does anyone know how our long man is now? Or who our long man is now? I wish I did. Does Max Lazar get recalled at some point? Alec Boehm acting like a whiny bitch, not helping his cause for not being here next season. True. Eagles fan. Good night, Farzi. Phillies pissed me off. Can't wait till Thursday. End of your shift? Basically, I'm ready for football now. I think we all are. Ken, good morning. God bless. God bless. Deer in the headlights of the Phillies. Yep. Duran is hurt. Watch him walk off last night. He was wincing. I'll take a look at that. I didn't see it. I didn't see him walk off like that, but I'll take a look. Thank you, Danny. Good morning. Hello. Go Phils. Mets own the standing ovation. Phillies. Brian Pumper. Yep. Couple of cornerbacks got released. Few free agents still sitting out there. Howie is running with this group. Right? Ha ha! Farsi's podcast going to new heights. That's funny. Thank you. Phillies versus Mets. Phillies versus the playoffs. Very true. Very true. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. Coming up a little bit later today. Locked on 76ers. I'll talk to you guys a little bit later. Have a great rest of your day. Be back with you guys tomorrow for another edition of the Farsi Show and hopefully talking about a Phillies victory. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Catch you guys next.